Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more defensive load testing. And today, we've got a very interesting combination out here to try. We have tested these shells a long while back on the channel, but we haven't really done an actual in-depth different choke test like this with them yet. And I've actually had a couple of you guys requesting to see this test here recently. So since I've still got some of those shells, I figured we'll bring them out here and we'll see what they actually like and don't like. But as for those shells that I've got out here today, I brought out some of these. The Winchester Defender 410 shells. I believe these used to be called the PDX-1 Defender loads, but these are a 410 3-inch shell that's loaded with 4 copper-plated defense discs is what they call them, with 16 pellets of copper-plated BB underneath. So definitely a very interesting shell. We have done a penetration test and stuff with them in the past. Here's the card above if you want to go check that out. But a lot of you guys wanted to see what would happen if we ran these through different chokes. In the previous test, we just had them in a cylinder bore. But what happens if you've got a modified choke barrel or an old full choke barrel or something like that? Do they do better, worse, the same? And how do they overall react if you run them through different chokes? So that's what we're going to find out today. And as for the setup I'm going to be running them through, I brought out my Mossberg 500 410. Technically, this is the turkey model, but the only thing that means is it's camouflage and it came with a turkey choke from the factory. However, this is threaded where I can screw in different chokes. So I have a cylinder bore, I have an improved cylinder, I have a modified, and I have a full choke that we're going to test out here today and see what happens when we run those Winchester Defender shells through those different chokes. So as for today's test, I don't have a ton of these shells, so we have to work with what we do have. So I figured we'll kind of split the difference here. 7 yards is commonly what is considered defensive range, at least mostly in the handgun world and stuff like that. And some people like to see shotguns tested at like 10, 15, 20 yards, you know, that kind of stuff. Based on what I already know as to how these shells tend to pattern and what I believe is probably average effective range or useful range for these, I figured we'll go with 10 yards is going to be our distance for today. We'll shoot one shot through the cylinder, one through the improved, mod, and full, and compare all 4 of them side by side and see what the difference actually is. It's not a perfect test, but it will at least give us an idea of what these actually do through different chokes. And of course, all 4 shots will be through the chronograph as well, so we can get our velocity, which the box claims is 750, but I believe we should see more out of a shotgun. So enough talking, let's get you guys set up with a view of the target. I'll go through and take all 4 shots, changing chokes in between, and then when we're done, I'll mark everything and we can actually measure things and look it over. So let's go take our shots and see what happens when we run these through different choke constrictions. Alright, so let's run through our velocities here real quick before we look at our target. Our boss claim was 750, and like I suspected, we did see a little bit higher than that. And it kind of does look like once we hit that improved cylinder range, we did gain a little bit of velocity as well. So that could have created a little bit better seal right at the end of the barrel. But let's go through and see what we actually got. Our final shot was 1038. The modified choke shot was 1039. The improved cylinder shot was 1055. And our cylinder bore was 978. So those gave us an average of 1,027 feet per second. So that's what, 277-ish feet per second above the boss claim, which is about what I figured we would see. So looking pretty good for velocities and pretty consistent overall as well in the grand scheme of things. But what do our patterns actually look like, and was there a big difference between chokes or not? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our target, and this is what we got. Now remember, all 4 of these shots were at 10 yards. They were just through different chokes. I did circle, measure, and mark everything so we can get an idea of what's going on here. So we'll start up on the top left with our first shot, which was through our cylinder bore choke, and that spread gave us 6 inches. As you can see, we have a definite line of those discs right there across the middle with a couple of BBs around it. Now these are supposed to have 16 of those BB pellets in there, and we only see about 6 of them, so it wouldn't surprise me if we still have multiple of them through the holes behind those discs as well. But 6 inches at 10 yards through the cylinder bore choke, that's absolutely going to get the job done without a doubt. So let's scoot over here to our improved cylinder choke, same distance, 10 yards, and we definitely opened it up a little bit, 11 1/4 inches from the farthest 2 points across. And as we can see, we definitely start to have a couple of flyers, mainly up there in the top right. Now, the main core of the pattern still looks pretty good, but I definitely think we started to be able to see more of those BB pellets across the middle there too. It looks like we had several discs that were still packed tightly together there at the top, with one little bit flyer down low, so it just doesn't look quite as even of an overall spread as what the cylinder did, and we definitely picked up a couple flyers without a doubt. And we'll move down now to our modified choke down here at the bottom, and we picked up even bigger. We are now at 15 inches of spread, and we can really see across the middle of the pattern there now where those discs start to spread out. We can see a lot more of those BB pellets, and we definitely have more flyers over there off to the left. Definitely not as even as the previous two, that's for sure. So it seems like the tighter chokes so far are performing a little bit worse than what the cylinder did to start out with. And now we'll move over to our full choke over there, and it's definitely a lot more sporadic of a pattern without a doubt. Looks like we still have a couple of those plated discs right through the middle there, with one flyer off to the left, and quite a bit more open of a BB spread as well. Definitely not as even as what we had seen previously. And we were at 14 inches on that, so not a massive difference between the full and mod choke there. But overall, comparing all four chokes together, I think it's pretty obvious that the cylinder choke did the best. The improved cylinder did pretty good as well, but we did start to see flyers on it, and it just got worse and worse from there. So it seems like a cylinder bore choke with these Winchester Defender 410 loads with the 4 discs and the 16 BBs performed the best in the cylinder bore choke. Now, yes, any of these 4 patterns would be more than good enough for a defensive type of scenario out to 10 yards, and you could even push that to 15 and probably 20 as well, and still have a good enough pattern to get the job done. I wouldn't want to be hit with any of them, that's for sure. So if you have an old fixed mod or fixed full choke barrel or something, these are still absolutely good enough for you to use. But it does seem like if you have the option available to you, a cylinder bore is probably going to be the way to go with these. So definitely some very interesting results without a doubt right there. But it also answers the question we came into it today. Seems like the cylinder bore is probably the way to go. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about those results right there? Definitely very interesting to see. And now I think we can have a pretty good idea that the cylinder bore is a good way to go with these shells. It seems to be the most consistent. The discs might be spread out just a little bit farther across the middle of the pattern, but it seems to have a nice, even and condensed spread of everything. Definitely no flyers compared to the rest of them or anything like that. All the discs seem to be in a straight row. So I think that's probably the way to go. Now, would I want to be hit with any of those patterns? Definitely not. They're all plenty good enough for a 10 to 15 yard defensive range if you needed them to be. That's absolutely going to get it done no matter what choke you have there. It's not necessarily a massive difference between the chokes, but it's definitely not quite as even of a spread of pellets between different chokes as well. So I guess leave your thoughts in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Winchester Defender 410 loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen out of them? Which pattern is your favorite? Which one would you choose? Do you think that cylinder bore is the best, or would you prefer a little bit more spread like the modified choke gave us or something? Leave all your thoughts about it down in the comments, as well as maybe what other tests you want to see us do with these shells. At the end of the day here, these seem to be a pretty good performer out of a shotgun at 10 to 15 yards, regardless of what choke you have. So with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys. As always, we've got the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like to. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.